Hi and welcome to the round 6 recap of the Candidates tournament. I'm Anish Giri and I'm here to bring you the news of this round. We're looking forward to it because it was a clash of some of the tournament favorites. Firouzja was facing Caruana, Fabi on +1 score in a good tournament position, Alireza not so much, with -1, 1 loss, no wins, was eager to strike. For him it was a must win, and as we'll see, it wasn't so easy. Fabi came well prepared. Nepo also with the chance, as I told everyone yesterday, anticipating this game. Nepo with the white pieces against Duda. I was thinking he was going to go for 1e4. There will be some chances. Either Naidov or the Petrov. Nepo always well prepared. But Nepo surprised me and everyone with something we'll see later in the video. Nakamura, white pieces against Dingliren. Both players eager to strike. Somewhat behind tournament leaders and really need to win. And Rajabov Rapport, also a game where anything could happen. Temur perhaps had an opportunity to finally win the game. And so did Rapport, actually surprising Rapport so far. Very creative chess, lots of interesting ideas, but all the draws can happen to anyone. It's not just me. That's intro. Let's jump into the games right now. The big game of the round, Alireza Firouzja against Fabiano Caruana. Alireza, in a must-win situation, went for the Catalan, an opening that Magnus Carlsen also played in a World Championship match and in many of his games after. This opening remains a rich opening. It's been played for many years already at the highest level. My Dutch compatriot, Denis Sosonko, who moved from Soviet Union to the Netherlands, was very big on that system back in a few decades ago. And then at some point, Vladimir Kramnik gave this opening a huge boost, and now Magnus Carlsen also plays it. I've experimented with it a lot myself as well in my career. But Fabi chose a solid system with Bishop e7, and now Alireza came with a rare move, Queen d3, trying to surprise Fabi, get some chances to unbalance the position in this important game for him. Fabi played very simple, just c5 and takes on d4 and developed the knight. And after cd, traded the knights and played knight takes d5. This setup looks extremely dubious for black to me because normally when white has a g2 bishop here, you want to somehow neutralize it as quickly as possible. But Fabiano judged that he is just in time to bring the bishop to c6. And he indeed is after knight c3, which is the critical move. Bishop f6, queen c4. Bishop takes c3 is important. bc, bishop d7. And this is what has been played in one of the games played between Grishuk and Lissi, where Lissi equalized position. And this occurred actually there from another move order, but still a very clever play by black. Important to take with the bishop, not with the knight, because after knight takes bc, although black has a better pawn structure, he has here one pawn island, so to speak, and white has two. That's always worse, but in this case, the bishops, the strength of the bishop is so different. This one is eyeing the pawn, this one is doomed to defense. Cannot neutralize it in time. If you go here, I'll already collect the pawn. And also the b file will be used to put pressure on the b pawn. This bishop will also put pressure on this pawn or on the potentially rook on b8. So very good position for white, but bishop takes c3 is a better try. Still, knight c3 was critical. Alireza neglected that knight for a move, but then after bishop f6 and bishop d7, he realized probably that if knight c3, now black can just take and play queen c8. He'll neutralize his bishop, and then there's nothing at all, not even the bishop pair that he could have after 11 knight c3. And so here he still played ambitiously with knight d2, keeping the pieces on the board, but Fabi was very comfortable. And important moment here. Now, first of all, black is ready to play bishop b5. This bishop is not bad at all. This pressure here is irrelevant. After e4, intending e5 as well as taking the knight, black has strong intermediate move e5. And now already this bishop kind of dead. And black is just better developed. White still has to develop these two pieces. Fabi was already better. Alireza should have tried to somehow neutralize black's initiative. Black has a better knight. It's more active here than this one. And he's got a better bishop because these pawns are on the color of the light squared bishop. So this bishop is kind of more open, has more space. And Alireza wanted to try and trade it. And did so with this little tactical idea. But here, Fabi has the strong resource f5. Idea is that if you take with the bishop, Fabi didn't just blunder an extra pawn. No, he has this queen e8 move. He opened the diagonal here. Queen says hello to the other queen. And if you take like that, Very clever. And then bishop g6, the rook no longer hangs, so you just move over. So f5 kept that extra exchange. Exchange is an advantage of rook over light piece. Normally rook is worth 5, light piece is worth 3, light piece is knight or bishop. And so if Alireza has a pawn and a bishop and Fabi has a rook, it means Fabi has 5 against white's 3 and 1. Very nice way to do the math during the chess recaps. So rook c8, moving out of this thing, and then finally this thing is called skewer. And finally Fabi also says, hello, I am also having my own ideas. And now he says, okay, I also like pawns. Also the queen jumps out of the way so rook can move forward. And with e3, Fabi is taking over the initiative. Now very important, rook d8. You trade rooks so that you are the only one with the rook. And after rook d8, knight d8, fe, black activates that rook with rook c7, rook c2. And it was all over. And Fabi concluded the game accurately. Now Alireza could never go for any attacks because of this counter attack with queen c3. And here black is just up material. Rook is more than a knight. We know that, especially in open positions like that. And here, before Fabi could deliver checkmate with this idea, knight h5, queen a2, Alireza resigned. Very important win for Fabi, who said that he doesn't know what's up with Alireza, but something's wrong with him. He's playing slowly. I personally think it's probably just a tough tournament situation when you're doing so badly in the tournament, and also the opening doesn't work out. Then it's very hard because you want to win, but you can't, and you try to force it through, and that's really usually backfiring. So horrible day for Firouzja, and probably the end of his hopes to win this cycle. It seems very difficult. I don't think anyone can come back from such a score, but of course his fans will keep fingers crossed and wait for a miracle, because if anyone can do it, it's the prodigy called Alireza Firouzja. You can find a deeper look into the game of the day on the Chessable course. If you go pro on Chessable, it's free, and so if you pay first, it's then free, obviously, very logical. And you also have puzzles, and you'll be a proud pro member on Chessable. So do check out my Chessable course on the candidates, and see you there. Another great game of the round, Jan Nepomniachtchi against Jan Krzysztof Duda, the battle of the Jans. I was really surprised at first when Jan pulled out Reti. When Jan doesn't play e1, e4, he usually plays one c4, so this Reti came as a surprise. But then I realized it's a very, very clever choice. So whoever it was, whether it was Jan's second or Jan himself, I bow to this smart choice. After d5, g3, Jan Krzysztof Duda has played many different systems, but all of them are quite interesting for white. So Jan could definitely prepare something here, Nepomniachtchi that is, could definitely prepare something exciting here, and this would be a total surprise for Duda. So I really like this choice. Excellent choice, and brought Jan Nepomniachtchi playing with the white pieces, very good position. Duda played the system with bishop g4. It's a very complicated system because the bishop can sometimes be a little bit cut out of play if you don't take it. If you do take the knight, then you give up the bishop pair, and you have to be very accurate with the move order here. You have all kinds of move orders, so you want to bring the knight to f6, knight to d7, knight pawn to c6, pawn to e6, bishop out somewhere, but you have to be very accurate with the order, and very often the knight leaves somewhere here or here, and then this bishop is kind of left stuck a little bit and can even be trapped. So you have to be very careful with this bishop g4 system. You have to know your move orders very well, and it seems that Duda was not aware. Actually, this dirty 95 move, I faced it in an online game recently, and I reacted terribly, I believe, against Nils Grandelius. I lost this game out of the opening. Luckily, it was not an important game, so I could later brush up on my memory and see what I did wrong. But for this important one, Duda seemed to also not be prepared. Indeed, a very surprising way of playing. You delay your development of the pieces, but as I said, this bishop is out, and you kind of just want to trap it. That's very intimidating. Probably the best move is 94 right away, but Duda took 94, and now after 92, you just have the bishops, but still the potential to push the pawns forward. And although the position is not clear, Jan really got everything he wanted in the end. Duda for now played bishop c5, a good move, delaying the push of 4, rook c1, queen e7, now king h2, very smart. king moves out of the x-ray, g4 f4, and f5 is kind of intimidating, so it would make space. Now queen e1 to g3, I really like that. Optically speaking, I really like this a lot, and already here I thought Jan is doing really well, but it seems that Black had a few options here. He had a few ideas. He can drop the bishop back, which is what he did, but he could also do it earlier, then perhaps go for a quick f6 or start bishop d4 first. There were some different ideas for Black, even in the game as he went rook e8 and bishop h7, even rook a d8 that he did, a slow preparatory move, but even after g5 he still has a way to play, that is king h8, and it's not easy for white to break through, because if you go f5 you weaken your e5 pawn, g8, gh doesn't lead anywhere, king has moved out, rook will join the g file, and so this position was still very playable for Black. But Duda reacted badly here. He took and went bishop b4. And now Jan just pushed things forward with f5. And after committing just e6, I saw the engine also saying move like rook c3, but this is very human. e6 and g6 just breaking through. Also possible was to start with rook b1 or even move like f6, but it was a very human way of playing. Jan broke through, and after ef, gf, he's already up a piece. Black has a lot of pawns, but the problem for Black is that White will activate his rook, collect the b pawn, and if Black chooses to trade queens, White gets to keep the e pawn, and if Black chooses to take the e2 pawn, then he doesn't get to trade queens in a good version. So that was a bit of an issue for Black. Here his best shot by far was to take on h7, and after rook b1 he can play queen e5, trade queens, and then the pawn is nice to have been captured for Black. Because Duda played king h8, he wanted to keep the queens on the board, and then king would sort of hide safely behind this pawn. But the problem is he's down a piece, and White has an idea of kind of try and just gang up on the g7 pawn and collect it. And that's what Jan did. He activated the rook. Yeah, this is nice. Activated the other rook. A nice little cheap trick. If you take it's called a deflection, deflecting the queen, and this is called checkmating. Check here, capture, capture, rook f7. Now, very interesting situation here. Normally speaking, when you've got a bishop and against, in fact, 3 pawns, first of all, yeah, material is more or less balanced, but especially the fact that White almost has no more pawns. You can, for example, collect this pawn. Now you have no more pawns left. Now, if there were no queens on the board, if it was an endgame, this would be very, very drawn. But because there are so many heavy pieces on the board, all the rooks and the queens, it gives, I should say also, if we didn't have the rooks on the board and just the queens and the bishop, it would also be an easy draw. But because there are so many pieces, White has all of these attacking ideas, and he doesn't need pawns. You need pawns to win an endgame. If you have a middle game with so many pieces, you can just checkmate. And here, for example, rook h5 looks winning to me. If you check, I have bishop f1, I believe. And here is just checkmate. So it's not about the fact that Black has taken all the pawns, but simply the fact that there are so many heavy pieces left on the board. And Black is unable to simplify the position. He just gets attacked directly and sort of checkmated in the game. d4, computer kind of sort of keeps the game going with rook e8, rook g5, some c5. Computer is trying to very, very accurately come up with some ideas of some counterplay. There are some tricks there, but for human it's just very hard. The attack seems to be crushing enough. The d4, which was an attempt to trade queens, rook g5 came, not only stopping that but also hitting the g7 pawn. And yeah, just very accurate. Again, queen e3 was an attempt, but after rook g3 stopping that, seeing the g pawn falling, Duda resigned. Very, very good win by Jan. Another good game by Nepo, I believe, and he seems to be in a firm lead, but he's got Fabi behind him, so let's not relax too early for Jan. But Jan can definitely go and go to the next race. They're celebrating his play and his achievement today, because this was definitely an impressive game, and I really like his opening choice. I think that was very clever once again. Credit to him and his team. Whoever thought of that, well done. A miss of the day, without any doubt, was Timur Rajabov's game. We started with, once again, this opening that Rapport already played twice. I was talking about takes and trendy queen d3 in the previous video. As I said, this was suggested by the engine, and Rajabov goes for it. No, Richard also has the engine, so they made all the first moves of the engine, which doesn't seem to make much sense to a human eye. But here, computer suggests 2 moves, and Rajabov mixed up. After king d8, you have to go bishop g5. After king d7, you play c3, and he mixed them up. After bishop g5, already rook f8 came. Now the point is that king is no longer pinned here, so bishop g5 was a little too slow. And so one inaccurate move, and already black was doing very fine. And this whole sequence from the start, it's really remarkable. None of the moves make a lot of sense, but at least at first, but it's just all best play. So you would think, let's say here that, let's develop the pieces somehow, maybe develop the knight, or maybe try to develop this bishop somehow, or, do something reasonable. But no, you need to include h5, and then you have to go d4. And then you think, okay, maybe let's move the knight somewhere. No, you should move it to b1. Now you think maybe let's protect the pawn, but you just go forward, knight e4. All sorts of moves are possible, but you go here and queen d5, bishop d2, bishop b4. You again think that, okay, maybe I have some normal move. No, you have to go to f1, 5. Of course, you always take en passant, that's anyway clear. And then, yes, let's give a check. Let's go to d7. Very random play. Finally, Rapport was doing well here, but Timur found the only defensive move, queen c3. And now Timur started defending really well. He gave back the pawn, brought the king to f1, played f3, didn't panic. Discovered check was kind of in the air, but Timur didn't panic, just took. King has the square. Okay, Richard regained the knight in this fashion. And now here Richard has 2 pawns, but we have opposite colored bishops, and white is very active. So it's not easy for black to try and push this game for a win, but he should also he should still be on the good side because he's got 2 pawns. Timur went bishop e5, and here Richard played an insane move. He went rook g4, missing the idea of rook f1 penetrating to f7. Instead, Richard actually got an opportunity to play rook f8, a great opportunity to consolidate his pieces. Rook would come to f5 even after rook f1, and actually, of course, it's very drawish, but black has 2 pawns, and he will push this one up, maybe that one up. And if he gets going and he opens this bishop, which is right now quite ugly, but if he opens it up, I thought maybe Richard could at some point start pushing it for a win. And the computer already likes black a little bit. But instead of going rook f8, with plenty of time on the clock, 45 minutes against 6, Richard spent 5 and went rook g4, completely missing rook f1. And here he panicked with rook h4. He should have still tried c5 when after complications after rook f7, rook g2, king h3, rook e2. He still is okay. Bishop d6, rook d2, rook b6, rook d6 is the line, or rook d3, and then sacrifice here the bishop. Or probably this is more accurate a little bit. Then try to somehow grind out a draw out of this, maybe rook g8, and then eventually g5, trading a h-pawn. White, for example, like that would be up material, but such positions is likely very drawish because h-pawn will be gone. White only has 1 pawn. Bishop is quite stable here thanks to this pawn. So very drawish, but required some calculation. And with more than half an hour on the clock, Richard has panicked, took on h4 for some reason, king g1, rook e4. And I don't know why, but both players had this huge blind spot. It's really not crazy difficult here to just tuck away the bishop back, resume the threat of rook f7. And I really don't know what both of them were missing. Usually I'm able to understand what the players are missing when I look at the position without the computer, because I've missed so many things in my career. I know what kind of things people miss. I can only explain that after rook e4, there was no bishop h2, but then was bishop g3. Yeah, I don't really know why he didn't see bishop h2. Only explanation I have is that he spent here 16 seconds only just to make sure that rook f7 is a draw, because he was on the bad side for a long time. So he thought that, okay, if this is a draw, life is good. Finally, he can save this game. But actually, he didn't even look for alternatives, because he thought probably bishop can be chased. But yeah, you've got this bishop h2 move, and there's just nothing. Once you spot this move, there's nothing to calculate. I don't see any defense against rook f7, but not even just a defense, but something that looks like a defense is also not there. So, for example, e5, closing the diagonal, then just rook f7, bishop a8, and just rook a7, simply collect the bishop. So a huge miss. This is just, bishop h2 is just lights out. There's no defense whatsoever. Just a huge miss for Radja. He would actually be back on 50%, and who knows? Who knows? This draw means for Rapport, though, that he is keeping his 50% score, still on all draws, and maybe with wind blowing in his back at some point, he could still start off and win some games, and maybe try to fight for the first place. 50% in the candidates is always a reasonable platform to start from. But he has to act quickly, because Nepo and Fabi are looking very good, both on +3 and +2. Score of 3 wins and 2 wins for Nepo and Fabi. And Rapport has to start winning quickly. Final game, Hikaru against Dingliren. Hikaru doesn't often play Italian, but he did prepare it for this game. Ding stayed true to his a5 system. And Hikaru played this Queen b8, Queen a7 system. We spoke about it in one of the earlier recaps. Ding played it already against Duda. Hikaru came prepared. He played the system that I played myself in a bunch of games. I think by now it's already quite well known. I would like to show you one nice trick here that I also showed on my course. After d5, e5, knight d7, very natural way of playing. I had a trap here, which was rook e3, c5, and now brilliant idea, knight c4. I believe I'm not mixing it up. I'm pulling it out from memory, but I think it was this order: knight c4, dc, and d5, bishop f5, and then it was something like knight h4, bishop d3, and then some sacrifice with boom and knight f5, and it was just checkmate, because you were just checkmating and here. So just a very impressive sequence. You prepare a rook lift, and then you just open up this the bishop, and then the side of the bishop, and then the side of the rook, and they just checkmate like that. It's very impressive. But it's already known. I've shown it in my course, and Ding came prepared. He went rook e8 and queen a7, knight f1, and now d5, e5, knight e4. Of course, here knight is much better. He waited for the knight to first move away before going for d5. Very clever. Knight d2 back, trying to trade off the knight, bishop f5, and rook e2. The idea is that he's waiting for the move c5, and now he has very strong move knight h4. Again, he wants to do this attacking idea, but Ding played rook d8 first, very patient. Now the knight can't leave because of d4 pawn hanging, and after knight b3, now c5 is good. dc bishop c5, knight c5, queen c5. And black is quite solid. He brought the queen back and was already doing fine. Knight g5, rook a5, and black was quite fine. In fact, Hikaru slightly played it a little inaccurately. Here Ding could have gone for queen b4, which was a bit more accurate, rook d1 and queen e4. Queen is kind of back, defending from the perpetual that happened in the game. After rook d2, rook d1, rook d5, this perpetual happened, and it was a draw. But after queen e4, queen would sort of be able to interpose here. And it looks to me very fine for white as well, optically. It looks like somehow queens would trade and d1 would fall, but black has some advantage. So another small opportunity missed by Ding, many opportunities missed by him already, and it seems that it's unlikely that he will be able to somehow pull ahead in this tournament, because things are just looking quite bad for him. He missed many opportunities and he's still on the minus score. Things not looking good for Ding Liren, but we'll see. And that brings us to the end of this recap. All 4 games covered. Well done me, well done you. Thank you for watching. And now let's see what tomorrow awaits us. Tomorrow is a rest day. Great news for players who must be tired, and also for the viewers who are also exhausted following these long, complicated games. But day after big day. Fabi has white pieces against Timur Rajabov. He will be very eager to try and strike and come closer to Jan. In fact, to catch Jan, because Jan will play black against Richard Rapport. Not going to be easy at all. Very interesting game as well. Ding Liren against Alireza Firouzja, a game between two pre-tournament favorites, but the ones that are in a horrible shape. They will be looking to finally win a game, and they will spare nothing and no one. It's going to be a crazy fight, no doubt. Duda against Nakamura, final game that we'll look forward to. Hikaru just needs to win one game, and everybody will get excited in the chat, and he will definitely be one of the contenders, but he needs to win that game. You need to get the plus score at some point to be taken seriously in this tournament. So he will try to do that no matter the color. And Krzysztof Duda, of course, eager to beat him as well, as he just moved down to the -1 score without any wins. He is definitely also eager to win his game. I have to say that, of course, you see that Nepo and Caruana are at the top of the standings. You think they're the only ones that have chances, but it's not so simple. I know from experience, when you are one of these players that is a point behind them, or even 1.5 point behind them, so many rounds left, each of these players still cherishing hopes of winning this tournament. Each of them making their plans, each of them hoping to still catch the others. And until it's mathematically possible, everybody is going to try and win this tournament. And right now, it is mathematically possible for everyone. So it's going to be an exciting event. Stay tuned and see you after the rest day for another recap. Thank you. Bye-bye. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's very important. Very, very important. Thank you.